What's up, guys? Alan Brock coming to you today from the Smoky Mountains, the very frigid Smoky Mountains. I stayed here last night and the temperatures dropped down into the mid-teens. Actually got a new winter sleeping bag for Christmas and I'm testing it out, and it actually stayed really warm, almost borderline too hot. So it worked out really well. I want to do a little infield review today for you guys, not of the sleeping bag, but of the Zpacks Duplex. If you've been watching this channel for a bit, you've seen it on several backpacking trips that I've taken. I've owned it for about a year now, and it has quickly become one of my absolute favorite pieces of gear. And I've had it in enough varied conditions. I haven't had it in extreme wind or any snow, but I've tested it in just about everything else, and I feel that I've used it enough now where I can give a pretty thorough review of it for you guys. So a little bit about the background of this tent. Now it's kind of its claim to fame, I guess, is it is the lightest two-person fully enclosed tent in the world. I don't have the specs memorized. I'll annotate those about the weight. See, right at 1 pound 5 ounces, so 21 ounces. And then I'll go ahead and add in the 8 mini hog steaks and their stuff sack for a total weight of 1 pound 7 ounces, just under 1.5 pounds. But I can say it's very light, very spacious on the inside. That's important. I'll talk to that in just a second. But I use it with my trekking poles. You can see behind me, I've got it set up, and 8 mini hog MSR mini hog steaks. I'll annotate all the weights for those on the screen. But I'm coming from a background of like your typical steel nylon tents, like things you see from MSR. I had a Big Agnes Copper Spur UL1. Those are very light tents. They weight-wise they hold up, but I was running into space limitations. I'm 6'4", and when I was sitting up to get ready in the mornings especially, I couldn't sit straight up. My head would be pressing up against the mesh in those tents. So I really needed something bigger, and this tent fit the bill. Now it is a bit pricey. I think this one was just under $600. But backpacking outdoor stuff is really one of those feels where you get what you pay for. So in my experience, this was money well spent. So let's just show you some of the exterior features of the tent, kind of how it sets up, and we'll go from there. Oh yeah, also one more thing I want to mention is at the end of this video I'll do a clip of me setting up the tent. I think a lot of people have trouble when they initially get this tent and set it up, since there are no poles to it. You use trekking poles, or if you don't hike with trekking poles, Zpacks does make a set of poles that they can sell you to set up that center line right there to hold the tent up. But yeah, I'll show you how I set it up. It's very straightforward. I've never had any trouble with it, and I always get a really taut pitch with it. So let's go over some of the external features of the tent, and then I'll show you the inside and how spacious it really is. Okay, so this tent requires 8 stakes to set up. You can see over here we've got 3 on each end, and then to hold the center trekking pole out, there's another one on each side. Now this is not a freestanding tent. It does require stakes to hold it up. Zpacks also sells, in addition to the poles to hold up each of the columns, if you're going to need this in a freestanding situation. I think if you're hiking in the Sierras a lot, there's a lot of granite where you can't drive stakes into the ground. They sell a set of poles. That's what this little center loop is here for. They sell a set of poles that will hold the tent up and make it a freestanding tent if that's something you need. So far I haven't needed that, so I don't own those. I want to show you this Vestibule here. That is a 70-liter pack, easily fitting in the Vestibule there. And obviously it's got 2 of those Vestibule on each side. Tremendous amount of space. I have had this in rain and everything stayed completely dry under that vestibule. You can see this bathtub floor here, and it's a little bit tough to tell or gauge height, but that comes off the ground about 8 inches. So you're not going to get any splatter in the rain. It is a single wall tent, as I mentioned earlier. Now that comes with some benefits and some limitations. The benefit obviously is weight. With only one wall, it's going to weigh a lot less than a double wall tent. But with your typical double wall tents, you've got mesh, and then over the top of that you put your rain fly. The benefit of that is condensation. As you exhale, the condensation goes through the mesh and collects on the interior of the rain fly. Now this single wall tent may be a bit difficult to see, but yeah, you see those drops there. That's condensation from last night. So what Zpacks actually recommends is for you to sleep with at least one of those doors open. Now I typically sleep with 2 open, 1 on each side. That way you can get some ventilation and it will clear that condensation out. Last night it was really cold. I wanted to trap as much heat as possible, so I slept with all 4 doors closed. Now this is the first time I've ever dealt with any condensation with it. I have slept with all 4 doors closed before and never had an issue with it. It's just the conditions. It got really cold last night, and I closed all 4 doors. Typically though, you're going to want to sleep with at least 1, and preferably 1 door on either side open. That way you can get some cross breeze and clear out that condensation. But right now I have doors open on both sides, just trying to clean that out. What I'll probably do is wipe down the inside of it. Now you can see this interior space here. That is a long sleeping bag. Like I said, I'm 6'4", and so I have to have everything very very long. So that gives you a feel of the inside space. I'll get in it in just a second and show you guys exactly how spacious it is. Now there is the trekking pole set up. In this loop down here, you can see right here, this is little clips that the doors clip to. I'll show you this on the other side. The door clips down there, and then it also joins together at the center loop, and there's a little clasp on the other side. If it's raining, you can clasp those together, and they really get a good seal for the tent. Now, as I mentioned earlier, this is a 2-person tent. Typically 2 people tents you still only use as 1 person, but I have had this camping before, and we have had to put 2 people in it. So a few things we did was I lowered this trekking pole. They recommend 44 inches as a trekking pole height. I lowered it a little bit, but a secret tip: to get 44 inches, if your trekking pole, I can't show it on this one, if it has the metric measurements, set one of the poles at 120 and the other one at 125, and that'll get you 44 inches. So anyway, what I was doing earlier, or talking about earlier, was sleeping with 2 people. And what we did to relatively comfortably fit 2 people in there was I lowered this trekking pole just a bit, and then I flared it out. Now you can see it's roughly vertical. I flared it out a couple of inches to give as much floor space as possible. The only limitation to that was this door here, this kind of rainbow shaped mesh door. It didn't zip all the way at the top, but with if you take a few steps, you can use this as a 2-person tent. Justin and I slept that way in Utah. You do have to sleep head to toe because your sleeping pads kind of flare at the shoulders, so there wouldn't have been enough room shoulder to shoulder. But I would say it comfortably slept 2 people. There's absolutely no room for gear on the inside, but in a pinch you can get by with sleeping 2 people in this tent. So just a little bit more about the condensation. Again, you may be able to see this on the walls, but one thing that they thought about is that if you do get condensation in here, one way that they have designed to clear it is right in here. There's a space between the bathtub floor and the roof of the tent, and that is enclosed in mesh, but ideally the condensation goes right down the wall and slides through that mesh. Having woken up this morning, I did see a few drops making their way down, so I can confirm that that is very effective. You can see up here this reinforced hub where your trekking pole goes. That's very, very thick material. I have no doubt that that's going to hold up over time. One of the biggest benefits of Cuban fiber or Dyneema, whatever you want to call it, is that it will not stretch. A limitation of those silicone or sil nylon tents is nylon stretches over time, but I pitched this yesterday, and I mean, you can see just how taut that still is. This material will not stretch or sag over time. Even if it gets wet, it does not absorb water, so that is definitely a big plus to setting up these tents. It may be a bit difficult to see. I've shown this. Yeah, it's pretty hard to see. Well, you can see right there, this is my orange sleeping bag. It's a very thin material, so if you're not going to be holding out a lot of light, so you're pretty much, if you're a light sleeper and anything bright wakes you up, as soon as that sun comes up, you're going to be able to see outside basically. It still offers plenty of privacy as you're changing, so no need to worry about that, but you're not going to be blocking out a lot of light with this material. Okay, so obviously we're in the tent now. I've switched to the GoPro because it's the widest angle lens I have, and I wanted to be able to show you guys as much of the interior of this tent as possible. So sorry about the audio on that, but you can see I'm sitting up in the center of the tent. I'm 6'4", I've got plenty of headroom. I'm actually sitting on a very thick sleeping bag and 2 sleeping pads, so plenty of space. This was the tent's main selling point for me, was the space, particularly the headroom that I have over those one-person tents. Like I said, the one I had was the Big Agnes Copper Spur UL1. A very good tent, but just not big enough for me. So let's show you guys some of the rest of the interior here. We'll start with this bathtub floor. Now, like I said earlier, that comes up about 8 inches, so there's no worry about splatter from rain. You can see that on either end there are these little mesh pockets here, and they've actually included some repair tape just in case anything gets a hole in it. Speaking of that, I do not use this tent with a ground cloth. Zpacks in their website actually says there's no need for one. This is a very, very tough material, so it will hold up over time. Still take the normal precautions that you would, you know, clear out any debris, sticks or anything from your campsite. But if you do that and you're diligent with that, then you're going to have no issues getting a hole in it. This is going to be tough to see, but there is a little loop up there on either side in case you need to string anything from side to side. You can do that. I have done that once to try to dry some clothes. It was pouring rain, so it really didn't work. Both sides have this mesh kind of rainbow shaped door. It does require 2 hands to zip it up. Once you get to this point, you can't pull it further, so it does require 2 hands, or you can, you know, zip it up from both sides. You can almost get it done, but yeah, that's just kind of a nuisance, not really a big deal. I'm gonna go ahead and lay down. It's a very flattering camera view here coming from beneath my chin, but you can see plenty of headroom up here, and on the flip side my feet aren't touching. I do kind of have to go catty corner to corner when I have my thick sleeping pad and then, like I said, actually 2 sleeping pads, but very spacious on the inside. I can't emphasize that enough. The first time I got in it, it felt like a mansion to me. There's the other vestibule there. So if you need to roll up the doors, there's a little hook and loop for that. You can see this vestibule still down, so there's a little hook for that. Okay, so now that I've done a review of the outside, inside of the tent, I've taken it down. I want to show it to you in its stuff sack. So there's the stuff sack for comparison. Here's a box of wheat thins. So you can see it's probably about the size of 2 1-liter bottles, but yeah, pretty compact. I just strapped it to the outside of my backpack, but I'm going to show you guys how I set it up. Again, it's really straightforward once you get used to it. This method results in a top pitch every single time. So let's go over setup. Okay, so once you've selected your campsite and kind of cleaned it out of sticks and debris, anything that may poke a hole in it, just pull it out of the stuff sack there, which the stuff sack incidentally weighs nothing, and I'm just going to lay it out like normal. Okay, so once your tent is laid out and pulled out exactly where you want it, these corner guy lines, pull those out at about 45 degrees, at about a 45 degree angle from the tent, and you're going to want to pull them about halfway out. That gives you plenty of space if you need to loosen or tighten those. So once those are pulled out, we just stake them in. So once your 4 corners are staked out, now it's time to put the trekking poles in place. But as you're staking out these corners here, don't worry about pulling anything tight just yet. You want to keep everything loose at this stage. We'll pull it tight in just a second. The recommended height for the trekking poles is 44 inches. All the trekking poles I've ever used are in metric, so one easy way to kind of calculate that is just set one of the pole heights at 125 centimeters and the other at 120, and you'll be roughly 44 inches. So we'll go ahead and set up the trekking poles on each side and stake both of those out. So as you place your trekking pole, you place the handle of it in this reinforced area right here, and then stake it out. And it's roughly 2 feet between there. You want to go ahead and pull this one tight. Actually, the cord for it is right there. Go ahead and pull that one tight, and we'll do the same thing on the other side. Okay, now that we've got it roughly pitched here, we're going to go ahead and guy out these center portions here. This is designed to give you headroom. Now if you want, I just stake mine to the ground to give maximum headroom. You can put a stick kind of right there and then stake it down. That'll pull it out and then down, but for my purposes I just pull it out here. So we're going to go ahead and stake that in place on both sides and pull it tight. Once those are in place, we're pretty much finished. You're going to find that your corner guy lines may be a little bit loose, so just apply any tightening to those that you need. We'll go ahead and do that. I think this side's pretty tight, but we'll check it. And we'll check the other side here. I think this side may be a little bit loose. And then finally we will attach the outer doors, or we'll snap those to this little guy line right there. Make sure they pull tight, see if we need to make any adjustments to those. Okay, and there you are. I mean, really a top pitch. We'll check it out here. Yeah, that's really tight. You can see doors come together nicely. Not that hard to set up. One thing I will mention, I don't think I mentioned this earlier, is these guy lines up here when you're first setting your trekking poles. I like to leave about 1.5 feet, 1 foot to 1.5 feet of slack in those just in case I need to pull them tight as I set my trekking poles. But yeah, hopefully that will help you as you're setting it up. Okay, so that will wrap it up for the Zpacks Duplex review and setup video. One thing I forgot to mention earlier is that setting this tent up in the rain is so much easier than setting up a double wall tent, because it's one piece. The roof is attached to the floor. You just spread it out. The floor is not going to get any water on it, as opposed to a double wall tent where sometimes you had to go through setting up maybe a ground cloth and the rain fly first and then sliding the tent underneath it. This is a joy to set up. Well, not a joy, nothing's a joy to set up in the rain, but it's very easy to set up in the rain and keep everything dry. So that's another advantage of having a single wall tent. I guess I should say that in no way am I sponsored by Zpacks or anyone else. Sadly, guys, sponsor me, seriously. I'll do good for your products. But anything I review on here, I buy myself, and the opinions are not influenced by having gear provided for me. But in my opinion, of the tents I've tried, which are quite a few, this provides absolutely hands down the best weight to space ratio. It's so spacious inside, and very, very lightweight. Compacts nicely, not the most slender form factor, but I strap it to the outside of my backpack, no problems. Things you got to look out for, again, are condensation. Be aware of that. That's mostly due to conditions. It ventilates very well, even with the doors closed. Last night was the first night I've ever had any issues with condensation. That's just because it was so cold out here. Previously that I've camped in it, even when I've had to close the doors, not an issue. Another thing I forgot to mention is that even in rain, this the height of it here, this door overlaps the bathtub floor by about 8 inches. So if the rain is coming straight down, you can still leave the doors open in the rain, or if it's coming in at an angle, you can open the doors on one side and still get that needed ventilation there. So it's a pricey tent, no way around that. I think just under $600 for the duplex, but as we talked about earlier, you really get what you pay for with backpacking gear, and this is some of the best money I've spent while backpacking. So anyway, if you have any questions about the tent, or maybe how it compares to other the big box brand ultralight backpacking tents, I've got experience with Big Agnes and REI brand tents. I'll be happy to answer those. Just write them in the comments below. But other than that, guys, thank you so much for watching. Like this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't. Plenty of photography and outdoor stuff coming up. And thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.